Greetings, greetings, greetings. It is Atandra Vinchale, founder and keeper of the Mermaid's Wisdom and your Houston area Reiki therapist, here tonight with one of my absolute favorite recipes, which is my vegan Nigerian stew. It's a tomato-based stew, and typically when you see this recipe prepared, it is prepared with hen or beef or fish stock or stockfish or some kind of meat. But the recipe I'm going to show you today is going to be completely vegan. And there's no tofu, no tempeh, no fake meat, nothing like that. So this is literally a plant and fruit, because tomato is a fruit, a plant and fruit based recipe. Now, before we get into the recipe, I do want to make a few things clear. Again, as I've stated in the title, this is a vegan version of the Nigerian tomato stew. Okay, which means that it's probably not going to be prepared in the way that you are used to seeing it prepared. Number two, this is a no fry stew. And what that means is that I will not be frying the tomato puree that is used to make the stew in any kind of oil. Okay, so if you have high blood pressure, if you have high cholesterol, anything of that nature, then this recipe is definitely going to be for you. It is an absolute wonderful way to enjoy this delicious dish without all of the additional oil. Okay. And the last thing I want to say is this. If you are Nigerian, or if you have Nigerian friends and family, or if you are married to a Nigerian, please understand that I do understand that the way that I am preparing this stew is not traditionally what you are used to seeing. And so what I'm going to ask is, as you watch this video, if there is anything that you don't agree with, if there's anything that you don't like, if you could refrain from leaving those kinds of comments, just kind of keep that to yourself, or you could just completely turn off the video. That's totally fine as well. This recipe is for people who have either wanted to try the Nigerian stew but have not been able to do so because they're not meat eaters, for people who enjoy the Nigerian stew, but maybe they changed to a vegan or a vegetarian diet, and now they feel like they can't do it because it's traditionally prepared with meat. People who are looking to try something different. I am looking to try something different, which is the reason why I'm making it vegan style this time. So that is who this video is for. That is who this recipe is for. Okay? So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed. Oh, one last thing. So this recipe is literally a work of love. So what do I mean by that? That means that it's going to take you some time. So you want to make sure that you have a lot of time available. And the other thing too is you may use quite a few pots, especially if this is the first time that you're doing this. So you want to make sure that you have time. You want to make sure that you have quite a few pots, especially if you're making the full Nigerian meal like I'm doing tonight, which is the tomato-based stew with rice. We're going to have plantain, and we're going to have the chopped spinach and peppers. Now, I'm not going to show the recipe for the plantain and the spinach and the peppers tonight, but you will get to see the recipe for the tomato-based stew. Okay, so make sure that you have some time before you get started, and make sure that you got lots of clean pots. Okay, all right, so I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. All right, so as you can see, I have several ingredients out here on the table, because I'm actually making a full Nigerian meal tonight, which will include the rice and stew, vegan style, some spinach and peppers, along with some plantain. But what I'm going to be showing you today is the recipe for the vegan stew. So what I have here are 3 pounds of chopped Roma tomatoes, and as you can see, I've washed all of the seeds out. So that's going to be really important to make sure that you wash all of the seeds out of the tomatoes. I've got 5 chopped red bell peppers. So again, I've washed all of the seeds out of the red peppers. 3 tablespoons of curry powder, 2 chopped habanero peppers, a half a teaspoon of baking soda. This is about 2 thumbs sizes of a portion of chopped minced ginger, 2 tablespoons of salt, and that's just to taste. So I may use all of it, I may not use all of it, it just depends. I've got 3 red onions diced here, so as you can see they're all separated. About 6 stalks of celery, a pound of small potatoes, and a pound of chopped rainbow carrots. For seasonings here, I've got 2 vegetable bouillon cubes, 2 teaspoons of cumin, 2 teaspoons of thyme, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, and 2 teaspoons of onion powder. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is work on the vegetable stock. So I have taken one of the diced onions and placed them here in the stock pot along with the celery. So now I'm going to add the potatoes and the carrots. Now to this, I'm going to add the seasonings for the vegetable stock. So I've got 2 veggie bouillon cubes here. So there's 1 and 2. Okay, now I'm going to add the cumin, the thyme, the black pepper, and the onion powder. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just enough water to cover the vegetables. And then I'm going to bring this to a boil. And I'll show you what that looks like later. Now what we're going to do is extract the juice from the ginger. So to do that, you're going to place your ginger here into the blender with just a little bit of water. Just a little bit, maybe a little bit more. Okay, and then we are going to blend this until it is liquefied. So now that we've got the ginger blended, we're going to strain it to make sure that we only get the liquid from the blender. Uh-oh. Okay, so I'm trying to do this with one hand. To give you an idea of how much liquid there is. Alrighty, so as you can see, my vegetable broth is boiling. You should smell this. It just smells amazing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to turn down the heat and let this simmer until my potatoes are about 3/4 of the way done. So, sorry, all the smoke. I don't know how do I okay, that's not gonna work. Now we're gonna work on the tomato puree. So I have taken one of the diced onions, and placed it in the blender. And to this I will add the diced habanero peppers. Now again, I am cooking for a family of 6. So we're gonna have some, we'll have some left over, and I may freeze some of it depending on what's left. So I'm actually gonna have to do mine in batches because I have so many tomatoes and so many peppers. But to this, I'm going to add some tomatoes and some of the peppers. Okay, and then I'm gonna add some of that ginger juice that we extracted earlier, and then I'm going to puree everything that is here in the blender. So again, I'm going to be doing mine in batches because I have so much, and I will let you see what that looks like later. So our next step is to boil cook all of the water off of the tomato puree. So I have a hot pan here. And this is the first batch of tomato puree, and then I'll add the rest. Now, remember from the beginning of the video, I said that we are not oil frying this stew. That's one of the reasons why we had to use so many seasonings and so much of the different seasonings, is because we are not oil frying the stew. And so this stew is going to cook here in this pan, and we're going to stir it. Very important that you stir it often, because if you don't, it will burn. But you're going to cook it here until all of the water is cooked out of the tomatoes. So what I've done is I have removed all of the vegetables from the vegetable stock, and I'm going to boil this down with the top off, because if I use all of this liquid, my stew is going to be running. It's going to be watery, and I like for my stew to be a little bit thicker. So the amount of time that you actually boil this vegetable stock down is totally up to you, and it just depends on how thick you want your stew. So I'm just gonna let this boil down until the liquid is reduced and the stock is a bit thicker. Now, the vegetables that I removed from the stock, I'm not throwing them away. What I'm actually gonna do is put them here in the oven and let them broil for a while. So I just wanted to show this to you so that you could see it. The tomato puree has been cooking down. It's been about 30 minutes or so, and as you can see, we still have some water here in the tomato puree. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what it would look like as you were going through the cooking process. So remember, I said at the beginning of the video, this is a work of love, and so you are going to have to be patient. You are going to have to take your time with this, because you want it to be absolutely delicious, and you don't want to ruin it by cooking it too quickly and then it burns, or it doesn't cook down enough and now your stew is watery. So I just wanted to show you what it would look like as you were going through this process. This is probably going to have to cook down for another 10 to 15 minutes before we can get all of the water out of it. Alrighty, so as you can see, we've boiled just about all of the water off of the tomato puree. Now here's the thing. Because we did not fry this in oil, when you taste this tomato puree, you are going to notice that it is super tangy. And so if you don't like that tangy taste, which is not typically what you find in the Nigerian stew, then what you want to do is you want to add about an eighth of a teaspoon of baking soda. And you're going to add that and mix that into the tomato puree, and then you're going to taste it. And if that's enough of the tanginess gone for you, then you can stop. However, if you taste it and it's still tangy, then you're going to continue with that process of adding 1/8 of a teaspoon. I'm going to taste this. Okay, so you're going to continue with the process of adding 1/8 of a teaspoon the tomato puree, and you're going to continue this until you get the taste that you want. So again, this is a work of love, so it is going to take some time. Take your time with this, because if you add too much baking soda at one time, you will ruin the stew. So this is not a very forgiving recipe. So take your time with it. A little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, and you will get the flavor that you desire. So once you do that, then you'll take it off of the heat and put it to the side. Now, before we moved on, I wanted to show you the consistency of the vegetable stock. You see that? Do you see how thick that is? You see how thick that is? That is what you are looking for. So when I said I was boiling it down, this is what you were looking for. So out of that sauce pot or that stock pot that you saw earlier in the video, this is what is left of that. So do you see this? This is what you are looking for. And actually, it could stand to be a little bit thicker. I just pulled mine out because I got a little concerned because it was starting to stick to the bottom of the pot and I didn't want it to burn. But it could actually be a little bit thicker than this. So this is what you are looking for. Again, this is a work of love. It takes time. This stock was boiling, oh, I don't know, maybe, what time is it now? It's been boiling for almost 2 hours. Almost 2 hours to get to this consistency. So again, this is a work of love. Take your time. I promise you it will be well worth it. So what I am doing now is I've taken that last diced onion and I'm actually dry frying it in the pan. So this pan is completely dry. There is no oil. So remember, I said this, we were not going to be frying the tomato paste or the tomato puree in any type of oil. So there is no oil in this stew. So we're gonna fry these until they are nice and golden brown. All right, so my onions are nice and golden brown. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add the tomato puree. So let me just, because I'm doing this with one hand, gonna see if I can just pour this out in here. Yes, beautiful. Okay, so we just added the tomato puree, and now we are going to add this beautiful vegetable stock that I showed you earlier. Oh my God, look at how gorgeous that is. Okay, and I'm going to add the curry powder. As you can see here, gonna mix this up, and then to this, I'm going to add some water. Now the amount of water that you add is really based on how thick you want your stew. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of water here. I'm gonna stir this up. And then I'm gonna let this cook for about 10 minutes. I may add a little bit more water. I just wanna see what this looks like. Okay, so there is our stew. I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of salt, just for taste. And if you remember those vegetables that we broiled earlier, the ones from the stock, I'm actually gonna go ahead and add those to the stew now. Got everything in there, and once this boils again, we should be ready. I'm gonna taste it a couple of times just to make sure that I added enough salt, but other than that, I'll be bringing this to a boil, and once it's boiling, it's ready. And there you have it. So that is the rice and the stew with the spinach and peppers and onions and plantain. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Please make sure that you share and like and subscribe and tag a friend. I love you.